And while we have some more folks coming in here, as it said on the flyer, the presentation is primarily based on two books. Dr. Eric Larson, who was with Group Health and then continued the ACTS study with the UW, as well as a book called Live Long and Die Short by Roger Landry. And the idea is, with the Live Long, Die Short, everything goes well, and then short term it doesn't, and then you're at the end, versus the end being drawn out and you slowly declining and maybe being hospitalized, etc. But both very, very good books. If you want to take a look at them after, I'm happy to share them. But this presentation is based on these two books. All right. We've got a few more people coming in. And I'm going to have my notes with me just a little bit because there's always something that I wanted to say that I forget to say. And I do encourage questions along the way. This will be interactive. I will be asking you questions. I will repeat the questions. If I forget, I'm sure somebody will remind me. So the presentation today is called A Plan for Aging Well. We're going to talk a lot about resilience and how we can enhance that through building our reserves, having a purpose, an attitude of gratitude, and being an activist. Basically being an activist for yourself. So again, based on these two books by Dr. Eric Larson and Roger Landry. So A Plan for Aging Well. We are all going to have different journeys on the aging process. And there's not a one-size-fits-all model. I am here to give you maybe some ideas, some suggestions, things that you can implement that will enhance your future years. And what's most important to you is different. You know, it differs from person to person. For some people, it's going to be family. For some people, it may be their health, independence, staying engaged. I always like to use the analogy of if you have on the street corner a bunch of 16-year-old boys, and over on the other corner you have a bunch of 80-year-old people, it's different. You know, everybody's different on the outside as well as on the inside, physiologically and on the outside with how they're aging. So kind of keep that in mind. We're all going to be different, but we can all continue to learn from each other as we go. And there was a statement that was in one of the books that says, aging well is like planning for any important journey. You can visualize the trip and predict what you will need to be safe and comfortable. You're going to have a lot more joy along the way if you can kind of have that plan. Doesn't mean that it's always going to go the way you want. And we're going to talk about that. So when we talk about resilience, again, I mentioned building your reserves, having purpose, an attitude of gratitude, and being an activist for yourself. We're going to dive deeper into each one of these components. But before we do that, most of you are sitting next to somebody, and if you're not, you can turn around. But turn around and tell somebody what made you smile or laugh today. That means you have to talk to each other. Yep, and someone's got to, you got to tell one of your neighbors, nothing made you smile. Can you see? All right. One beautiful thing about that exercise, I'll let you all finish up here for a moment. One thing that's really nice about that exercise is I saw somebody shared and somebody else laughed. So what made one person laugh or happy, when they shared that, the other person got a moment of joy or happiness also, okay? And so that just goes to show the importance of connecting, and what that took like 2 minutes, if that, which was great. So we're gonna talk about resilience in general first. It's a word you've probably heard a lot of in recent years, and it's the ability to recover from adversity or setbacks and keep going. And one thing to realize is that somebody that's resilient or exhibits that, it doesn't mean they've been free of hardship. It means that they just have had the ability maybe to put it in perspective and continue to move forward and grow. And there's a Chinese proverb, which I put down at the very bottom, Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Right? And that simplifies resilience right there. But it's going to involve our thoughts, behaviors, and actions that can be learned and developed throughout our lifetime. And of course, it's going to be based a lot on what our individual life experiences are. Okay? And so all these other things that we're going to talk about today are going to contribute to your resilience. And factors, caring and supportive relationships. We know if we have close, supportive family, that's going to help us deal with adversity. We have people to talk to. We have that unconditional support and love. We want to be able to have the capacity to make realistic plans and steps to carry them out. A positive view of yourself, and sometimes I think that point is like a lifelong learning point. Confidence in your strengths and abilities. And capacity to manage strong feelings and impulses. When you get really upset, you're at the grocery store parking lot, you've not had a very good day, you're waiting for that parking spot and somebody else takes it. Do you get really irritated and get just ticked off for the next 5 minutes? Or do you just, like, that person's having a worse day than I am. Let them have it. Move on to the next spot. You know what I mean? Those are those little mind shifts that can make a difference, because that anxiety, that frustration, that anger that we hold on to affects your hormones, and it's going to impact your immune system. Yes, a question in the back. Talking about attitude, yes, and we're going to go into that all a little bit deeper. Yes, it's about your attitude, your perspective. How do you look at that? In the big picture of the world today, not getting that parking spot, how much time and energy are you going to waste on that? You have a choice in that moment to decide how you're going to spend your energy, which is a very limited resource as we get older. We all know that. How are you going to spend your energy? Are you going to get upset that the server didn't bring your correct side dish? I'm trying to bring it more in-house now. Yeah, it bugs you, but how big of a problem are you going to let it be? You let them know, let the correction be made, and move on. Again, one thing I've been trying to look at a lot over the recent years is energy. How do you want to spend your energy? You have that choice. So in these books, it talks about 10 ways to build resilience. We know the importance of making connections. We do not want to isolate. We want to stay engaged with people. Avoid seeing crisis as insurmountable problems. Again, trying to take a step back. A lot of times we're going to have an initial reaction where it's like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that's happened today. Okay, you have that initial response. Take a step back. Take a few breaths. Put it in perspective. Is it really? Accept that change is part of living. I shouldn't have to really tell you all that. You all have seen a lot more change and had to experience a lot more of it than I have. If you can be accepting of change, it's a lot easier to move forward. If you don't accept change, you get stuck. And then what happens? You complain, right? You're unhappy. You're frustrated. Again, going back to, is that where you want to spend your energy? You want to be able to move forward towards your goals, and we're going to talk about that when we're talking about being an activist and taking decisive action, making a decision and moving forward. Look for opportunities for self-discovery. We want to continue to grow, regardless of our age, whether you're getting better physically, you're enhancing your knowledge. I like to say, be curious. Be curious. Have dinner with someone you haven't had dinner with before. Learn something new about them. There's a flower out on the deck. You're not sure what it is. Figure out what it is. Talk to some of the gardening people. We're all going to have different things that interest us, but continue to be curious about the world around you. Nurture a positive view of yourself. Did you know that not all thoughts you have in your head are true? Right? Again, just because we have a thought about something doesn't make it a fact and doesn't make it true. Sometimes we need to take a step back from it and say, that's just a story I'm telling myself in this moment. It may not necessarily be true. Keep things in perspective. A hopeful outlook. We're going to talk about gratitude and taking care of yourself. I know many of you are very good at taking care of other people, but do you take the time to nurture and take care of yourself? And we're going to talk about that when we're talking about our reserves, which is next. So, building your reserves. The image I used for this is a barrel being filled with water. Water? Looks like water. A wine. She wants wine. So think of your energy as a tank of fuel or a barrel of water or wine. What are you doing to keep that replenished? When you give to other people through volunteer work, through caring for your grandkids, for caring for a spouse, those reserves go down, right? Because you're giving, so it empties a little bit. But how are you replenishing that? How are you refilling that? And how we do that is different for everyone. Some people, it may be sitting quietly reading a book. Others, it may be going to happy hour on Cove West on Thursdays and connecting with neighbors. You know, it's different for everybody. But figuring out what that is for you and making it a priority. You are a priority. For you to be the best that you can be for others around you, you need to take care of yourself. And by building our reserves, we want to be able to think clearly, move safely, and live independently, and postpone serious illness and disability. And by nourishing ourselves, we can contribute to all of these things. And some ways we can do this, like I said, make new friends. Focus on modifiable risk factors. There's things we can't control, like our age, our genetics, but you can control what you eat, how much you move your body, not smoking, and avoid too much boring, repetitious work that doesn't stimulate your brain. Anyone have examples of that? Louder? TV. There you go. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Sometimes it can be stimulating, but sometimes it's what we want to zone out and kind of check out. Too much emotional stress. Are you recognizing when you have too much emotional stress? Sometimes we can't avoid it. Maybe there's a loss of a pet or a family member. That's when we want to have our reserves full because they're going to get depleted. Okay? But if we're already depleted and we go through those things and then we go on empty, that's not good. Okay? And excessive sitting, never a good thing. I have a whole presentation on that one. We'll do that one down the road. All right. So, what do we want to do? We want to move every day. Learn something new every day. Right? You can still learn something new, right? Make contact with someone. We're so technology oriented nowadays. I had a friend at a previous community I worked at. His wife passed away, and I didn't know about it. I read the obituary, and I was going to send him a text. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Pick up the phone, give him a call. And that's what I did. But reach out you all have that great opportunity. That's one thing that's beautiful about living in a community like Hearthstone. You can reach out to a lot of different people, right? Do something, you hear this in many different ways. Do something that makes you uncomfortable. Get out of your comfort zone. Do you do something that makes you uncomfortable every day? Yes. I knew that was going to come from somebody. But again, what about that person you've seen around the community a lot? You think you know their name, but you can't remember. What about just asking them? Maybe that's a little uncomfortable for you because you're a little embarrassed. Ask them what their name is, right? It doesn't have to be something huge. It can be something small. Find something to quiet your chattering mind. I know in my head I have a hamster and he runs around on a wheel all day long, right? And I got to try to kick him off the wheel at night. For me, it's reading in my dark bedroom. I just tell my husband, I'm checking out, I'm done. And find your purpose. Okay? All right, stand up. I know it's hard too, just to sit here and listen to people talk. I get that. So yeah, just kind of stand up, move around a little bit. Maybe we should do the Macarena. All right, so while you're standing up, you get to talk to someone else that you didn't talk to last time and tell them what you do to refill your reserves. How do you replenish yourself? And drink a lot of wine. So what do you do? Do you make a connection with somebody new? All right, let's go ahead and bring it back in. So you can go ahead and sit back down when you're ready. I get you all talking and it's hard to get you to stop, which is great. So any ideas that anyone wants to share? Walking. Yes. You read and you do what? Oh, jewelry making and reading. Walking. Gardening. You know what? Laundry can be very meditative. Yeah, folding. It's that repetitive, meditative. Yeah. Singing. Swimming. Music bingo. Yeah, and you know what? With the music bingo, there's a few different things going on. You have socialization. You have music. And by golly, you have laughter. Right? Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to get into purpose. So why do you get up every day? No, you have to go to the bathroom. All right, well, we're getting laughter today. If you don't have purpose, it's like, what am I going to do today? Well, I'm going to eat. Yeah, I guess. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a flat day, right? If you don't have something to look forward to. Okay? And what is meaningful and important to you is going to be different. We all answer that question differently. And it's something that changes throughout our lifetime. Okay? But it's important to have an idea of what that is for you. And I hate to say this, but my husband would not be happy, but I'm going to use him as an example. He retired last June, and he is really struggling right now because he doesn't have that routine anymore, and he's having a hard time finding that up and go. And I know he will, but he's having a hard time with this right now. And of course, I'm his wife, so he doesn't listen to me at all. So volunteering, and I know someone was at the zoo today, is a great way to keep active with other people, to continue to learn new things, to avoid loneliness and boredom. And it doesn't necessarily have to be outside of the community. I know that Nancy runs a volunteer program here. There's a lot of volunteering that happens within the community, serving on committees, being floor chairs. You know, there's a lot of opportunity to do things. And having this purpose is going to help your reserves. And so the suggestions are to find activities that give you a little bit of structure, challenge your brain, keep you socially engaged and physically active. All that makes sense? I heard an amen. All right. One more time. So I'm not going to make you talk to anybody else, but I would love to hear from some of you, what are you good at? What is important to you or gives your life purpose? Yes. Cooking for the community at Capitol Hill. Yes. Working in the garden. Involves being outside and other people get to see that beauty. This side of the room. Nobody has purpose over here?
Writing a website for a club I belong to.
There you go. Writing a website, right? Challenging the brain, contributing for others. Yes. Writing stories for the storytellers. Love that. Yes. Taking pictures. We're getting pretty active over here. What about this little chunk of the room? Yes.
Playing the piano.
Playing the piano. Yes. working in the gift shop. See, it can come from all different ways, right? Find what works for you. All right. Attitude of gratitude. Does anybody not understand gratitude? Do you know that like writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day can help to rewire your brain? I'm seeing a lot of nods. People know this. Your day, you can have 2 days that are exactly the same. This day, I'll call it day A. You wake up and you go into it, man, my back hurts. I didn't sleep very good last night. I've got to go talk to all these people. What time is it? Heck. Yeah, I guess, I'll just get through things, okay? Your whole day, how you wake up is how you set the tone for your day. Your day is probably going to kind of drag on, okay? Now let's go over here to your same day, but option B. Man, I didn't sleep very good, but you know what? I get the opportunity to interact with some pretty cool people today, and I might learn something. Just that simple shift can change the tone for your whole day. And I know because I've done both. I speak from experience. It makes a huge difference what your outlook is, what your perception is, your overall look at things. And I don't think I'm telling you anything new, but we don't shift our mindset enough. And sometimes we just talk ourselves down into a hole, and it's just not worth it. Okay? And so if you practice gratitude, stronger immune system, less depression. There are chemicals that are released in your brain when you are practicing gratitude that are going to help your immune system and release happy hormones in your head. It works. You have more joy, optimism, happiness, less feelings of loneliness and isolation, and stronger relationships. So think about, do you want to be around that person that is happy and joyful and optimistic? Or do you want to have dinner with that person that's going to complain about everything? Which scenario will you walk away from feeling more positive and more energetic? Right? And so we can be either of those people. And they actually, if you're constantly negative and complaining and seeing everything that's wrong around you, you're bringing other people down that are around you also. They actually have a term for it. It's called energy vampires. Because you don't walk away feeling more energized and happy and like, hey, I really want to be around that person again, right? They kind of brought you down, okay? Versus being around someone, sometimes you step away and you're like, wow, that was a really great dinner. I had a really nice time with Jill and Joe. You got energy from each other instead of it just being sucked from you. Gratitude can be cultivated, right? I talked about you can practice it. Expressing gratitude, and you can feel gratitude. And again, what this is different for everybody, but taking the time to consciously express it, whether out loud or in writing it down is very powerful. Writing it, and it can be very simple. And on those days, maybe when you're struggling, guess what? You can be grateful for your breath. Because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be here. And I've done my gratitude journaling, and there are days when I'm just like, breath. It's okay, right? But often we can find something. This morning, Mount Rainier was spectacular. Traffic wasn't. Mount Rainier was spectacular. So choose to live with an attitude of gratitude. Savor the positive, right? Sometimes it takes a little more effort to find the positive and to be grateful. It is really easy to go direct to the negative and find what's wrong. Find what's good. Find what's positive. All right, again, I won't make you turn to people, but what are you grateful for today? Evans Pool. The Arboretum. Russ Hanby's art display. I heard something back here. Green Lake. Absolutely.
Lisa Brush's birthday today.
Thank you. I'm biting my tongue. Trying to fly under the radar all day. Thank you, Pastor Leslie. Yes, it is my birthday today. That was lovely, by the way. All right. So now we're going to shift to being an activist. So this may be a concept that you may not be as familiar with. Maybe you are. I want you all to be activists for yourself. An activist takes action to create the life they want to meet the goals they are after. What steps, regardless of how small, can you take towards what you want to attain? It's not going to fall from the sky. You need to make it happen. And what steps can you take regardless of how small? You want to learn to paint. Maybe you make the commitment that in the next few days, I'm going to do a little bit of research online to try to find a painting class. You've taken steps towards that action. Does anybody want to share maybe something they've been thinking about, but they haven't taken any action yet? I know this is kind of a hard thing, putting you on the spot. The boxes in your storage unit, you want to go through them or get them cleaned up? Yeah. And so bringing them up a little at a time. Going through them, which takes forever. Yeah, because you relive all the pictures and all the memories. But, so yeah, maybe starting to formulate a plan. Hey, if I want to start bringing up some boxes from my storage unit and going through them, how am I going to do that? What would be a few action steps that I could take to make that happen? Maybe I need to clean a corner of my apartment first, have a clean space on the table. You get the idea. And that is one thing that I would challenge you all to after today's presentation is maybe think of something that has been on your mind that you've been wanting to do What are some steps, concrete steps that you can take towards making that happen? So when it comes to healthcare and being an activist when it comes to healthcare, I think it's always great to have somebody else in your appointments with you because it's nice to have an extra set of ears to hear what the physician says or maybe to ask a question. I know I always get home from a doctor's appointment and my husband's like, well, did you ask him this? No, I should have. I didn't even think of that. Because that other person in the room may think it in a completely different way. It's also helpful, sometimes the doctors throw so much information at us that we're not catching it all. I know a lot of them give after visit reports now, which can be helpful. Keep in mind that your physician is not God. They are an advisor. They are part of your team that is going to help you make a decision. Just because they say do X doesn't mean you have to in most situations, right? It's something for you to consider. Medication versus lifestyle changes and choices. I'm always going to promote the latter. Medications serve a purpose. They are good. They have a reason. But if you can make a lifestyle change that will do or influence the same thing that a medication was, let's try that first. There are so many side effects of medications. Let's try to avoid some of that if we can. And always looking at benefits versus risks. Advanced planning. So I would hope that most of you, all of you, have considered, have worked on, have in place advanced planning with your advanced care directives, power of attorneys, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't, I would invite you to have that be your action plan, because how important is it for others to know what you want and what you don't want? Don't put the burden on other people to try to figure that out. So, being an activist, take care of your well-being, be involved in your healthcare. And when I'm talking about like your advanced directives, choosing your ending as much as you can. Makes sense to everyone, right? Live long, die short. So what we've talked about is building your reserves. How are you going to replenish your energy stores when they're getting depleted? How are you going to do that? Having a purpose. Why do you get up every day? Maybe you get up for your spouse, but can you turn that lens back on yourself? Why do you get up? I ask my husband this, and he says he gets up for the coffee. I'm like, okay. So having an attitude of gratitude, your outlook can so influence how you perceive the world. And be an activist. So I'm going to share a couple things with you. One thing that led me to pursuing a career in the fitness world, I changed careers when I was in my mid-30s. Sounds about right. Which I'm no longer 30 because it's my birthday. I'm 40. I wish. I'm what? 31. Yeah, 31. So I got divorced in my late 20s, and my stepdad, I call him my dad, was staying with me, and I was trying to figure out if I should go back to an old job I had where I made more money or stay where I was. I was a little lost. The one thing he told me that has stuck with me is he said, don't look back and have regrets. Don't look back and have regrets. Whatever decision or decisions I was to make not to look back and have regrets. And he had always wanted to be a baseball umpire. I did not know that. It's really great when you can have these type of connections with your parents when you're older. Very special. But it's something that it stuck with me. And in my mid-30s, I ended up going back to school for fitness. I was still working a full-time job. And I made that decision to go into fitness after he died. He was only 63, unfortunately. And when I made the shift, I made it because I found I was coming home so exhausted, so drained. My reserves were empty. I was almost in tears because I was just shot, because I'd given everything I had at my work every day. And it was crap that didn't matter. Right? If I got hit by a bus, nobody would ever know that I had that job. And I had been doing part-time coaching, and I just kept hearing him in my head, don't look back and have regrets. And I realized I was making a difference and touching people and empowering them to do things. And that was making a difference, and that was very fulfilling for me. And that was my purpose. And I am eternally grateful to him, for that statement. And so even at this point in your life, what are you doing to make sure you don't look back and have regrets? And I love this next quote. Of course, it's going to go along with my dad because he was a baseball fan. But how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? 35? I'm hearing 35. 34? Do I hear a 34? But Satchel Paige was an African-American baseball pitcher in 1933, and he pitched for 22 years. But, that's just something interesting to kind of think about. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? So I open it up now to, if you have any questions, I'll stick around for a few minutes, but are there any general questions? Okay, so your homework is what? No regrets. No regrets? You're going to be an activist. What is something that's been on your mind that you're going to take some action on? Make a plan. Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for the birthday serenade, everyone. I hope you have a lovely day. Get outside, enjoy some of the weather. Yes, Joyce. Okay, question. Okay, so what if you feel like you're 35, but physically you can't walk like you're 35? So, right? So what adaptation do you make? You've got to kind of make a shift, accept that your body's not going to move like a 35-year-old anymore. And what changes do you need to make? Do you need to walk a little slower? Do you need to walk with trekking poles? But you can still walk. So there is an acceptance of how we're changing physically and cognitively with aging, and then how are we going to adapt? So we're going to accept and we're going to adapt. And if you have to give something up, what are you going to replace it with? If you keep giving things up because of whatever reason, your world is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So if you give up running, can you use a recumbent bike in the gym? I don't know. Or go to a group class. If you can't knit anymore because you have the arthritis in your hands is so bad, can you still go to the knitting group and socialize? Don't let your world get too small. Yes, one more question. Two more questions. Sometime. So the question was, there's an article that was shared with me by another resident about the importance of sit-to-stands. There's a printed copy of it downstairs in the fitness center. And it is a very good article as to why walking doesn't necessarily translate to the ability to get up out of a chair. And that would be a different presentation, and I would love to dive into that. And we'll at a different time. Yes?
I think this is a time to put in a plug for chair fitness. And
Love
you
it.
might think, as I did before, thinking, oh, I do pretty well, I don't need that yet. And that is, well, I would advise against that because I finally tried it and it did so much for my upper back. It takes the pressure off of my lower back. I'm standing straighter again.
Uh-huh.
And that is great because I know I'm going to end up with a walker and maybe a wheelchair. Get your strength now, because if you wait until you are too stiff or debilitated, it's too late. You will have too much trouble recovering that ability.
So I'm going to summarize that a little bit. But the plug number one was for chair fitness. And what I loved is Diana said, well, I didn't think I needed that yet. That's chair fitness. That's not good. I don't want to say, you didn't say this, but I'm better than that. You didn't say it that way, but you said it in a way that I don't need that yet. She finally decided to come, and what she found is it helped her back and posture, which then ended up translating to her walking, so her legs weren't needing as much energy because she built up some upper body strength, okay? And so please do know that we do have these offerings. Jeannie and I are here for y'all to talk to one-on-one. We are here to support you, and I'm not going to keep you much longer because it's a beautiful day. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.